Hey, everybody, welcome to 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal. I am your host, Brian Slagel. I am the CEO of Metal Blade Records, where for the last 43 years now, we've been home to Armored Saint, Fate's Warning, Cannibal Corpse, Amon Amarth, Killswitch Engage, Slayer, many, many more. You can look us up on the internet and find out more information. Anyway, this including, by the way, the band that we're going to talk about today, Amon Amarth, Twilight of the Thunder God. Really important song, I feel, for the history of heavy metal. One of the first death metal songs that got a lot of airplay and a lot of popularity from many, many, many things, and kind of mainstream almost now, which is kind of bizarre. And Amon Amarth has gone on to play arenas and stadiums and festivals all over the place, which is pretty amazing. So as usual, we've got our friend Martin Popoff to give us some history about the song. Then we'll talk production of the song with my buddy Marc Lewis. And we're going to bring in my good friend, the singer and co-writer of the song, Johan Hegg from Amon Amarth. I got a shout out to our friends in Thunderflix. Thunderflix is your streaming service dedicated 100% to heavy metal, a dream for every metalhead. To have all your favorite concerts that were released on DVD, Blu-ray, and plenty of documentaries and movies about heavy metal. Thunderflix has it all on HD, no advertising, and easy to use. It's a streaming service, so you can download it on any of your TVs you have, Apple TV, Roku TV, all there, and even has some Amon Amarth and a bunch of Metal Blade stuff in there, along with many, many other artists. So check it out, Thunderflix, Thunderflix. Thunderflix has everything licensed from top labels like Metal Blade Records and many more, and they keep releasing things every Friday. Visit www.thunderflix.com to get a free trial, and then it's $666 per month or $66.6 per year. Should be a fun one, and I will hand it over to Mr. Martin Popoff.
All right, Brian, thanks a lot. Twilight of the Thunder God. I mean, this isn't even their greatest hit, I would say, but this is an absolutely huge song. 100 million Spotify plays. As an album goes, this is a massive hit album for the band. A Swedish Viking metal band. If they weren't Viking metal, they'd be pirate metal, because I say that because they fit this idea of a snow globe band a little bit, like they've created this really interesting brand for themselves. 12 albums, all of them on Metal Blade. So yeah, they've been with us a long time and with Metal Blade for a long time as well, but touring North America for a long time. I've met them a few times. Put it this way. So this is the seventh album of the 12. It's the biggest album. But like I say, The Pursuit of the Vikings, I think, is the band's greatest hit. But this is an absolute classic as well. It's the opening track. It's got those really sort of precise modern production values. It's not a super fast song, but you've got super fast bass drumming in it, and you've got that buried riff underneath sort of a more of a melodic lead. So this is classified as melodic death metal, I suppose, but more so Viking metal, because the whole image that overshadows or overpowers the idea of calling this melodic death metal, like a Dark Tranquility or even a Nevermore kind of thing, right? A great song, great anthem for the band. It charted number 50 on Billboard. The album did. Sold 73,000 copies in the States. We've got Rupa Latvala on here from Stone, Synergy, and Children of Bottom guesting. There's some other guests across the album as well, but yeah, you've got that great death metal vocal from Johan Hegg, and just a great sort of situation for the band. They're firing on all sixes. There's a video blog about the making of the album. There's a comic book going on, and then they come out with this absolutely lockdown. All their albums are high quality and well put together. You may even almost complain that the production values are of that sort of, they're almost too modern and too perfect kind of thing. It's definitely not hard on the ears. It's got a lot of that rich sort of upper low end to it as well. But an absolute anthem in the the post Manowar world of Viking metal. There you go, Twilight of the Thunder God.
So you guys have to check out our friends at Old Glory. Old Glory offers over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans, featuring officially licensed merch from iconic brands and top sports teams. Discover the perfect fan gear, and you can save with our exclusive discount. When you go to oldglory.com and buy your stuff, enter the code METAL1982. Again, that's Metal 1982. You're going to get 15% off of your order. So go to oldglory.com, check out their stuff, and buy some things. Thank you. And now we welcome in my friend who, if I listed all his credits, would take about 20 minutes. So you can Google or Wikipedia him or whatever to get all his credits. But the amazing producer, engineer, mixer, etc., extraordinaire, Mr. Marc Lewis. How are you, sir?
Oh, have an ego boost now. Every time you introduce me, I feel like the most important man in the world. I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Today we talk about the great Amon Amarth song, their signature song, in my opinion, Twilight of the Thunder God. Really interesting song. We'll talk about it a lot, but I don't know that when they recorded this song, they realized how good it was. Because when I got the original sequence, it wasn't like one of the top songs. And I quickly said, this needs to be the first song on the record.
This is about, I mean, obviously, this is when the band really started growing. It was like when that record came out, I remember that my non-music buddies, the guys who have the Disturbed CD in their back seat, who are like, dude, check this out, or whatever, like they're all of a sudden listening to Amon Amarth. And I'm like, yeah, it's because, not necessarily just because of that song, but it was when they started to really break through. It's a hell of a song. I mean, it has that classic metal arrangement where you have the really heavy bridge. It's almost like a neck breaker. Like, I think that the first time you ever heard something that really did that arrangement so well was Angel of Death, where you have that middle bit where it's the chunky guitar starting the riff and the song goes to another level. You know what I mean? It's just got that thing, and there's so many classic metal songs that do that. And when it's done right, it just catapults you into the stratosphere.
Yeah, and it's one of the first death metal songs, really, or they're melodic death metal, but we'll call it death metal, that has the kind of grungier vocals where you can really sing along to there's a chorus that you can actually sing along to that's got melody in it. And I just love the fact that once they started playing it live, right away people started singing that chorus even before that song was a big song.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, how many streams does it have now? Probably 7 zillion or whatever. It's when you went, okay, like them or not, this is a huge band now, and it's great stuff.
And they started growing really kind of around Fade and Norns, where the production started to get a little bit better. And Jens Bogren did this record, and I think that was another thing that I really noticed too, was the production level now had come up, and the record sounded really good. It didn't sound like an underground death metal band anymore. It sounded like a real heavy metal band.
Yeah, Jens. I mean, some people would argue that's his classic era. I think he would love to argue that every era is his classic era, as I would say for myself. I don't want to be pigeonholed to an era, but that was, I mean, he really, he had done Ghost Reveries a couple of years before that, and that record I really loved the mix on, and I said, who the hell mixed this record? And it was Jens. And then, of course, how many Amon Amarth did he do? He did much more than that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. He said 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Because they like to. One thing that I always like about Amon is they like to move around with producers. I don't want to get too comfortable. And I remember when they first decided they were going to move on and do a record without Jens, I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's going so well and the records sound great. And, what's the issue? And they said, we feel too comfortable.
Yeah.
We want to go in and be pushed. So I think that they went with Andy Sneap after that because they wanted to go and have a guy that's gonna push them around a little bit and they'll feel uncomfortable. And they've always felt in the studio environment better when they're uncomfortable, more creative for some reason. So
yeah, I mean, I wish more bands would do that. I'll be the first to admit I've gone one record too long with some bands, or even like, I may have done a bunch of records with a band where maybe there's one record in particular where they probably either should have gone somewhere else or weren't ready to be in the studio or whatever. So like, I wish more bands would do that. It's important for bands to realize that they need to be pushed. And it's something like big bands like Amon Amarth that are well run and seem to communicate, well, or have the ability to write these big songs. They seem to realize things like that.
But I do know that they did have a real good relationship with Jens, and we're going to talk to Johan about this song after we talk to you. And I'm sure he'll talk a lot about that. But I remember I wasn't in the studio for any of this stuff, but I do remember them being excited about the record and feeling that Jens really brought something out of them that maybe they hadn't had before. And like I said, this was kind of their coming out record. I mean, in addition to Twilight, the song, I mean, there's so many classics on this record, and this is when I felt like, okay, they've really got something here. Like this is like next worldly for a band like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, that was when they were crossing over into the mainstream, and all of a sudden I have my gym bro buddies being like, "You heard this Amon Amarth band? Yeah, dude, I know exactly who they are." Like it's, and that's cool that they're doing that, and it's it was even wilder. It's wild to see them out with Ghosts now. It's like, man, you get it. You look around and you see how much fun these people have listening to that music, and it just makes all the sense. And that was really where it started.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah. And it's become a bit of a, I don't want to say timeless classic, but somewhat timeless, where, it's the pinnacle of their shows now. And when they get the big shows, they have the moment, where Johan's got the gigantic axe and he hits it and the explosions and all this stuff. So, but I love watching the crowds react to their stuff in general, but this song specifically, because so many people get into it. And again, there aren't a lot of bands like this where you go to their shows where people are singing the song, singing the lyrics, singing the choruses louder sometimes than the band. And specifically with this song, I mean, I do it with a lot of other Amon songs, but specifically with this song, I noticed that a lot, where I'll be in the crowd watching them and I'll go, wow, these kids are singing louder than the band is actually right now.
Yeah. I mean, this song, it's just, like I said, it's that classic arrangement. It has the hook, but it has the bridge that where you can really go nuts, and the crowd loves that. I mean, it's funny that you say that they didn't realize how great of a song it was. It's that happens often, but I mean, you look back now, I mean, that thing is a monster, and it just has all the things you need to do that. I mean, and yeah, I mean, Jens, I would love to pick Jens's brain about that record. I'd be curious what their process was and how prepared they are. I bet they're a very prepared band, since they're so stylistic,
Yeah, they go in well rehearsed and they know what they're doing. And I think, you can attest to this as a producer, that we've talked about this before, but when bands come in and they sound good in general, it's a lot easier to record because you don't have to fix things or add EQ to stuff. It's just the band sounds good, and they've always sounded good. I imagine that's a lot of why these albums sound good, but I know that Jens had a big part in getting that sound out of them.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's so much easier when bands are prepared, and it just makes your life so much easier when you have players that sound superb when they're hitting their instruments or playing their instruments or whatever it is. And it's one of those things where I would just imagine, when I listen to that band, that their demos are probably pretty well fleshed out, just by who they are. I'd love to hear about their working process, but before I forget, who played the solo on that song? Wasn't it one of the guys from Children of Bodom?
Yes, you're exactly right.
That's what I thought. It wasn't Alexei, it was the other guy.
It was the other guy. Yeah, it wasn't Alexa. Yeah, I think that they wanted a really, because it's a super fast song. They wanted like a really killer solo, and they're friends with those guys. They might have even been in the studio around the same time.
Right.
And as good as little Johan, as we call him, is a guitar player, like his forte isn't kind of speed shredding really. And they kind of wanted that on this song. So they asked him to come in and do the solo, and he most graciously did, and did an incredible job, obviously.
It almost has that Dragon Forcey thing to it. It's not edited like that, obviously, but like just the way he laid that solo out, it was very, reminds me of that time, even when you hear that song, you're like, oh yeah, this is a very era appropriate solo for when that record came out, I think, and it's a killer solo from what I remember. I mean, I have to really go back and listen to the song, but he's a great player.
Yeah, he's awesome, and it's a super fast, shreddy solo, which fits the song perfectly. So I see why they would do that. And they've always been a band too that are unafraid to have other people play on their records. Like they've got a lot of, almost every album now, I think they've got a duet with somebody, and they've had other players on. Like they're like, hey, let's come play this. You'd be great on this part. A lot of bands like, oh, we only want to have our own guys play, but they're like, no, let's. They're friends with everybody. They're friendly guys, obviously. And it's like, hey, come in and, this part would be really good for you. And that's kind of the way it came out on this one. I know that they wanted like a real shred solo, and they hadn't really, those guys as players in Amon aren't kind of those guys necessarily. So they had him come in and shred it. And like I said, it came out perfect.
That's an art in and of itself, is bands that can have guests on huge songs and still have huge songs following. It's some bands really do it well, and some bands it's like, oh man, it's you unfortunately pigeonhole yourself with one thing.
Yeah, those guys though in Amon, they're pretty egoless. So I think that they just like, hey, if this is gonna work for the song, let's do it. And they're friends with everybody, so it kind of works out.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, as usual, thanks for doing this. Much appreciated.
Yeah, of course.
And you're on for a few now, so people get better used to listening to you.
Oh man, I'm excited. Let's keep talking.
All right, thanks, man. Much appreciation.
All right.
Now we bring in the man who sang on this great song and co-wrote this great song, Twilight of the Thunder God. Of course, we're talking about. He's also the lead singer, frontman of Amon Amarth, and my friend, Mr. Johan Hegg. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So Twilight of the Thunder God, signature song, obviously, for Amon Amarth. But I have a clue. I know what you're going to say here, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. So when you were writing this song, did you feel that something really magical was happening here?
I never do.
I know. Well, the reason I say that is I tell this story all the time to people because we talk a lot about sequencing of records, and that's kind of a lost art that really not a lot of people really know about or care about now with the way music is consumed. But back in the day, it was pretty important. When I first got the record, this song was, I think, 8th on the sequence, which is normal where you put the song, like, we don't really care about that song, we'll throw it back there. And I remember listening to the record going, oh my gosh, this is the best song they've ever written. And going to back to you guys saying, hey, can we move the song like maybe to the front of the record? And thankfully you were nice enough to do that.
I think it was a discussion actually already when we recorded it. And Jens Bogren, who was producing the album, he wanted to open the album with Free Will Sacrifice, which is a great song as well. But I think that the band was more into this being the opening song. But I will say though that in the beginning I wasn't sure. It's weird because I felt, I don't know why, but I didn't feel it was a great opener. But now I don't understand why I thought that way or felt that way.
I think the thing is, because we've talked so much about that, especially on this podcast, because so many of these amazing songs that make up the 100 songs that define heavy metal, in all of our opinions, or mine at least, is a lot of times bands, I think you're so close to the music, writing it, recording it, and everything. Sometimes you're not really sure, because I have this conversation all the time with bands where, we get the record and we'll pick the singles and we'll go, okay, we think these are the 3 best songs, and the band will go, really, those 3? Like, we don't think those 3 are all that good. So it's pretty common though. So it's very common.
I think one of the issues that we have in the band as well, or always have had, is that we all have different favorite songs all the time. It's very rare that we all kind of love the same songs, like maybe 1 or 2, but definitely not 3 or 4 that we like rank the same way. So it's kind of weird.
Well, you have a lot of great songs, so I can see where that can be the case. But this one's obviously become kind of the signature song of Amon Amarth, and really kind of the whole movement of what people call melodic death metal, I guess. But it's really important to the whole scene that, bands like, look, a band like Amon Amarth, if you would have said to me 15 years ago, well, maybe longer than that, we're going to be headlining huge arenas and playing in the Honda Center in Anaheim, California, and all these amazing things.
Yeah.
Being the music is so heavy and the vocals being what the vocals are, it's really kind of mind blowing how you've just really blown the doors wide open and become this massive entity.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean,
the world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
We've seen it coming a long time here in Europe, at least, especially Germany, that we've been able to play bigger and bigger arenas and all that stuff. But in the States, it literally just blew up like in a couple of years now. It's just become really huge. And we, as you said, we headlined the Honda Center, and then we also, like before that, we played the Kia Forum as well. So anyway, so yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's insane, completely insane, but obviously amazing as well. So
Yeah.
We'll talk about the song a little bit now. So obviously you've done a great job, and kind of this signature image of Amon Amarth, or Vikings and Viking lore and Viking imagery and all this great stuff, which you do so well. So tell me about the lyrics to this song.
Well, I think it's based on the part of Norse mythology, which is like the most epic thing, which is Ragnarök, the end of the world. And specifically, it's about Thor, the god Thor, and his last fight against the giant Midgard serpent, Jormungandr. So basically, that's his fate, which I sing in the song as well. That ride to meet your fate, your destiny awaits, and he does that. He goes to face Jormungandr, and he kills Jormungandr, but dies himself in the process.
Yeah, so it's quite the story and quite the epic song. And the one thing that I think specifically you as a vocalist too gets a lot of credit for, as you rightfully should, is your vocal style is very melodic. And there are like choruses you can sing to, specifically in this song, where it's like, the whole chorus is the entire audience is singing it, which is not the norm for death metal bands.
No, I've actually, somebody commented that actually it was my dad. He came out to a show here in Sweden, and we played this summer, and he said he was just blown away, because he was like, I couldn't believe, like, you just had to do one thing, like raise a fist in the air, and everybody was singing along to the songs. And he's like, that's hard to do. Like, you don't see that in almost any shows. And I was like, well, that's metal fans for you. But yeah, it's crazy that we managed to get that with that particular singing style that I have. But I tried very early, at least, to evolve a style of singing that was brutal, but still that you could hear the words and you could follow along to the words and kind of get into it, and maybe not so much deep grunts or like high-pitched screams that are sometimes indistinct. You can't really get what the words are because it's just so extreme. But I think I do kind of what somebody said before, like it's more like you're belching out the song, and I guess that's what I'm doing, like in a way. But yeah, I've developed my own way of growling, I would say, but it's something that just happened because I wanted to do it in a certain way.
I took my friend Eddie Trunk, who, if you don't know Eddie Trunk, he's a radio host. Well, you guys know who he is, but the fans out there, if you don't for some reason know, Eddie Trunk hosts a daily show on SiriusXM. He used to host That Metal Show on TV, and he's like the preeminent rock and roll metal guy, promoter of everything. He hosts stuff, etc. But he's never been a fan of any sort of the heavier music, death metal or metalcore, any of that stuff. Anything with the heavier vocals he doesn't like. And over the years, we try to get him involved. I know even callers, because I'll do his show a lot, and the callers will come on and, come on, Eddie, you need to get into this stuff. And he's an older guy. I get it. I understand it. But he asked me, you guys played in Las Vegas at the Great Palms Hotel and the beautiful theater there. And Eddie said, I want to go see Amon Amarth. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you can definitely do that. Why don't you, come with me? And, I wasn't really sure what to expect. He was sitting next to me, so a little worried, like, okay, so you're going to want to leave after a few songs. But he loved it. He thought it was great. He goes, you know what? I get it now. I mean, the music's very heavy metal and typical of what you would normally hear with Iron Maiden or whatever you want to say. But he actually got into the vocals with I get the melodies now. I can see what's happening, especially the crowd. So we're winning them over one by one here.
Yeah, it was great to meet him there. I was actually also surprised because I heard that about him as well before. But he's a great guy, and it seemed like he really enjoyed the show. So that was awesome.
Yeah, he did. And I think that's we talk about you guys playing all these big venues and stuff. And I think that's the thing is there are a lot of people that normally wouldn't necessarily be a fan of music that heavy, especially the vocals. But I think, as I've said for the last, bit we've been talking, is the vocals are pretty palpable and you can understand a lot of them. And there's a lot of melody in there too, which I think draws in, fans of other types of music that would normally be like, not really sure. But then a year and I go, oh, I like this.
Yeah, I think we started down that track quite early in our career, especially with getting the vocals to be more melodic and like clear, though still growling. But I think the really big step we took with that was starting to work with Jens Bogren on Without an Our Side. I think he came into the whole vocal thing differently than we've ever done before, and it just opened up a new world to me, at least as a vocalist and as a lyric writer, to figure out where is the melody here, like how do I make the vocals stand out in a good way here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the music also got a little bit more melodic around that time too. It's still super heavy, but there's a lot of melodies in there. And especially this song, I think it must have made it a little bit easier to put vocals over because the melodies of the music are so great.
We always had melodies, but I think we let go of the idea that if it was too melodic, it wouldn't be cool enough or heavy enough. And just started thinking about, well, is it good? Well, yeah, it sounds great. Let's do it, because in the previous, I think we were holding ourselves back a little bit before this. We were kind of thinking that if we would let the melodies take too much space, it would be too cheesy, As you already mentioned this, and I mean, we are in a way a heavy metal band. That's where we have a lot of our influences. I mean, we grew up listening to bands like Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Saxon, all these great heavy metal bands. And obviously that's going to reflect the music that we write.
100%. And I think also, bands, I mean, just isn't just in music, but just in life. People need to take risks, and a lot of people are afraid to take risks, especially bands that are extremely heavy, like you guys are. Where, like you were mentioning, if we go too far with the melodies, is that going to mean that, like you said, it's going to become cheesy or different? But you took those risks, and probably starting with Fate and Norns and definitely Jens Bogren, kind of brought you guys into a whole new world there, and it really kind of, I think, honed in on it perfectly on this record, and specifically on this song too, where it's super heavy, super melodic, and obviously very memorable.
It's actually like very melodic and like actually kind of aggressive too. It's like really like up-tempo song as well. So it has all these elements, which I think is what makes it such a great song, because it's heavy, it's melodic, but it's up-tempo, but you still follow along as a listener, and you can still sing along as a fan, and it's kind of, I don't know how we managed to do that, actually.
Well, I'm glad you did. But it's a true anthem, which I never would have thought I would say about a death metal song. It's like it's an anthem, but this really is an anthem, just like all the 70s stuff.
It's one of those songs that's hard to cut out of the set list for sure.
Yeah, don't ever do that. You can't, you're not allowed. Also, you guys have an amazing stage show, and you've been doing that for quite a long time. A lot of flames and fire and Viking battles on stage and all sorts of really cool stuff. But my favorite part of an Amon Amarth show is this song, when you have the whole intro, and then you have the big bash going in, and you have the big, if you haven't seen it, you have to go on YouTube and watch the live stuff, and make sure you see like a festival show or one of the headline shows where they've got the full production, because you've raised that gigantic battle thing above your head, and it smashes and explosions everywhere. It's like one of my favorite experiences of a live show ever, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that goes back to what I said before. We grew up with bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all these bands who brought like amazing stage productions to all their tours. And I mean, we started small. We started gradually adding stuff to the show, and then when we had the opportunity, we started adding bigger and bigger things, and really try to build an experience, because that's what we loved when we were kids. You went to a show not only because you loved the band and music, but it was like a spectacle, like it was something cool happening that you were like, whoa, I want to see that, and that's kind of what we want to deliver as well. I think it's so important you don't necessarily have to have like a big production to put on a good show, per se. I just think it adds like that little extra spice to a big stage, to have a proper like production when you can have it. It's something that, as you say, like it impresses a lot of people. Hell, it impresses me that we can do this. It's crazy.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I grew up watching Alice Cooper and Kiss in the 70s. Exactly. and their shows. And I think, their music is still phenomenal, but the show adds just a whole other element to it. And I've always been a big fan of bands that put on not only great performances, but big shows. So speaking of Amon Amarth Live, another thing that is very synonymous with Amon Amarth, everybody, including people that barely know who Amon Amarth is, know about the rowing. So explain that a little bit, and where did that start?
Well, as far as I know, I think this is the truth. It started in 2009 at Bloodstock Open Air in UK. We didn't see it at the time, but during our performance of Pursuit of Vikings, a bunch of people sat down and started rowing, but it was more like a conga line version of it that didn't move. So it was kind of like a snake going through like the crowd, and somebody filmed this, right, and put it up on YouTube. So we saw that and thought it was amazing, so we shared it. And then it started happening like a bit of everywhere, and all of a sudden it's this big thing where like thousands of people start to sit down and start rowing, and we're like, all right, I guess this is our thing now.
It's amazing. And I remember seeing you guys at opening for Ghost in the US. I think it was the Dallas show. And I was sitting a little bit further back in the crowd in seats. And I was surrounded by all these, strangely enough, as we've discussed, and a lot of people who are new fans of Ghost are aware, there's a lot of teenage girls who love Ghost, thanks to TikTok. So I was sitting around all these teenage girls all dressed up and stuff, and they were, liking the show. And then when the rowing started, one of the girls goes, "Oh yeah," I think it was even before that. Maybe I can't remember. One of them talking to her friend says, "Yeah, this is the band that has the rowing in it." They're like, "Oh, cool." So,
yeah, that was a weird experience. The Ghost tour, we call it our Beatles moment, because like if you see old like clips of Beatles playing, you'll hear all these girls like screaming like high pitch. And that was kind of the feeling we had. And what I really kind of enjoyed was that like at the beginning of our set, we had a short set, like 45 minutes or something. Everybody was like, what's this? But at the end of it, every night, the crowd was with us. I think we won over a lot of fans there. And it was amazing to do that tour. We had a lot of fun.
Well, that was, because of the TikTok thing and because Ghost was pretty much the first heavier band that a lot of those kids had heard. That was their gateway. So it makes sense that they would be into Amon Amarth as well. I saw the same thing. Like I remember seeing one of those shows and they have cameras everywhere. And so they put the cameras like around to see the fans in the first few rows. It's probably up 3/4 of the way through the show. And they were all those girls all dressed up. We're all going crazy for Amon Amarth. They go, "This is good. I like this."
Yeah, that was fun.
It's amazing.
That was crazy. Yeah.
So coming back around to this song again, how surreal is it all these years later that you're playing it live and the reaction of the crowd is amazing and it's still, considered one of the top metal songs of all time. Like how can you comprehend that really?
I can't. It's definitely one of our like absolute best songs. I would agree with that. And it's one of those songs where like if you have a shitty show for some reason, but when we play that, it always goes well. It always is like the crowd is always into it, or so that leaves you with a good feeling. So it's a great song to end the set with. I don't know. It's one of those songs where you feel that everybody knows it. Everybody who's at the show, they know this song. You can really get them to sing along, and you can really get everybody to get into the vibe. And usually the mosh pits are the best for that song and everything.
Clearly you didn't intend to do this when you were writing the song, but you really have kind of written, you've written a lot of amazing songs, but this one particular kind of because it was the first one to really break through, I guess. A song that's really kind of become, again, not just an anthem for the death metal crowd, but an anthem for really all of the metal bands. You guys have opened for, Ghost and Iron Maiden and, so many big heavy metal bands. And I don't know that we would have saw that coming, in your early part of your career where you can.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but you can play in front of these, legendary metal bands and do extremely well, and those kids are into it, which is pretty rare because, especially Iron Maiden, like those fans, kind of like Slayer, who we've also played with, those fans are pretty much like we're just there to see Iron Maiden or Slayer. Winning over those kids, and I think that again really helps the genre in general kind of still be fresh and new.
I think so, and I also always thought that we were a band that really enjoyed being sort of the underdogs. Like we thrive from playing before fans who don't necessarily want to see us or hear us. We love to do that. We've always taken that as a challenge to really show people what we can do. We always kind of had that attitude, and I think it's helped us in our career, actually.
Yeah, and I think in certain ways, too, when you start playing these big arenas, especially in the United States, That's a bit of an underdog role too, because I think a lot of people are there not necessarily because they're big Amon Amarth fans, but they say, "Hey, there's a big heavy metal show at this big arena. There must be something going on here." Because I remember seeing the one at Honda Center, and there were definitely kids that were around me that were familiar with Amon Amarth, but weren't really. I don't know that they were really fans. They just went because, hey, it's a big metal show and it's here, and so you're winning all of those people over as well.
In a lot of ways, that's how I discovered a lot of bands myself when I was a kid. I went to the arenas here in Stockholm to see a band because they came to town and they played like the Ice Stadium or the Globe Arena, and I would be like, yeah, if they play there, they got to be good. So you kind of bought some albums and you bought the tickets and you went to the shows. And not everything was great, of course, but but. You became a fan of a bunch of bands for sure.
Yeah, more often than not. So I'm going to end it here. And thanks again for doing this. But
hey, my pleasure, man.
I want to say that you've done something that I've been wanting to do forever, and I'm inching closer to making it happen. But we're both huge hockey fans, and you've actually appeared on the NHL Network. Which you are amazing on, by the way, but makes me very jealous.
I taught some of the players to growl and some other stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. So keep that up.
It was fun. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for doing this, man. I appreciate it. I know it's late your time, so it was good to see you.
Thanks for having me, and I'll see you soon. Right?
Absolutely. Thanks again.
All right.
That was fun. Another great 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal podcast. Huge thanks to Johan Hegg for taking the time out in Sweden to hang out and talk about the song. Thanks again to Martin Popoff for all his great information, Marc Lewis for his talking about the production. As always, thanks to Lizzie Borden for our intro music, and thanks to producer Christian Blatt for making it all happen. And we'll see you guys next episode.